What it do, boo-boo baggins? How you doing? It is Saturday night. We are here way after midnight. It's in the 1 o'clock hour, definitely, for our secret sermons, where we study the secret teachings of Jesus from the Gnostic Gospels. I just was really curious and wanted to read the Nag Hammadi scriptures, and I didn't know when I'd have time to do it, so I decided to make it a weekly segment for us. We do this after midnight, mostly because that's when I come in from work on Saturday. But it's also beneficial because the Hebrew sages used to study at midnight and in the wee hours of the morning, because they knew that midnight was a powerful and very positive time, and it is a liminal space between the end of one thing and the beginning of another. This is why, in witchcraft and in many other mystical practices and traditions, midnight is known and acknowledged to be a very powerful time of the day. And it's just this open window where the veil is very thin and it is much easier to access spirit and the non-physical. Also, it is powerful to push yourself out of your comfort zone and do something that is practicing a resistance against appeasing the flesh, right? This is a form of restriction where we go against our nature to, reach for instant gratification or something being easy or to receive for the self alone. We sort of put ourselves out of that comfort zone and we push ourselves through discomfort in order to reveal greater light. And so because we make that energetic sacrifice, it breaks open that energy and allows for it to be redistributed and reassigned and transmuted, right? So, very powerful time, that midnight. Okay, and so then what we will do is I've been reading, we're on the Gospel of Philip currently, and I've been just reading a portion each time. And the Gospel of Philip so far, the context is like these sort of small segments and portions, like little paragraphs, and they're very like cryptic and abstract and symbolic, and I think they're meant to be meditated on and for them to just sit and marinate, and then things come up. Because so many times, like, I'll look down and I'll be like, what am I really going to talk about? There's like 3 sentences and it seems pretty straightforward. But then once we start, it's like the information starts coming through, and then I start thinking of more and more things through the week. So we're going to pick back up on, I feel like maybe, I'm not sure if we did this exactly I think we had to skip last Saturday because of maybe like a new moon, not the new moon, maybe it was Rosh Hashana, I can't remember, but I feel like we did not do our sermon last week. But I did want to pick up with a follow-up on glass and ceramic vessels again, part 2, because it really tied in with all the themes for Rosh Hashana, like all the consciousness lectures. It really tied into what we were already talking about. So you guys, we're ahead of the game. I love it. Let's see. So I'm going to read this section for you, probably poorly, and then I will mention like the footnotes, and then we'll go back and unpack it, and I'll tell you about like how it ties into the whole Rosh Hashana thing. All right, and we will begin. Oh yes, I think it should be noted that I'm not a theologian. I am not an expert. I'm just really interested, and so the information coming to me, I'm really just channeling it in the moment. But I have gone back and checked in like the introduction chapters and stuff to each gospel and book and stuff that we've been reading into. And actually, we've been right on the money. So well done us. Well done us. But yeah, this is just for entertainment. So please don't stake your life on this. And please don't tell me anything about the controversy around the Gnostic Gospels. We don't care. We're just here. We're just enjoying. Okay, we're just very interested. Are we ready? Are we ready? We've gotten all of our announcements out of the way. All of our side notes, all of our instructions. Let's begin. Glass and ceramic vessels. Glass and ceramic vessels are both made with fire. If glass vessels break, they are redone. since they have been made through breath. But if ceramic vessels break, they are destroyed, since they have been made without breath. In the footnotes, it explains that here, breath is referring to spirit. So in that context, I'll reread. Glass and ceramic vessels are both made with fire. If glass vessels break, they are redone, since they have been made through spirit. But if ceramic vessels break, they are destroyed, since they have been made without spirit. Now, I love this because over the top, like the high concept, low-hanging fruit here, is that any situation that had spirit in it to begin with, or was pure of intention, or was made, or the situation began in genuine love or certainty. Because we can do almost anything as long as we have pure certainty in the light. The light can come in and fix anything. It's almost like a system that works like a machine, right? It's like science, right? And that's why people that say are CADs or heels out in the world can get away with all the things that they do, even though it's like, why do people in power that do bad things, like, why do they keep winning? Why does it keep working out for them? It's because it's like the laws of spirituality and nature are just running regardless. It's not like there's a person watching, each thing play out with like their opinion involved. It's like there's a system. And so like these crazy sociopathic narcissists, they believe so certainly in their cause. They have such blind faith in themselves, or that everything will work out, that it does, right? It's not that they're being rewarded because they're good or they're better or they're right or things are unfair. It's just that some things in life work kind of like gravity, and gravity works regardless of if the subject is an asshole or not, right? So if spirit is in something, it can be saved. Or if you do something with like absolute certainty, then like it can be changed around and saved and fixed as well. So like if you are in full alignment, mind, body, soul, and spirit, you feel like your soul calling you towards something, and you take a leap of faith, right? And you, your heart's in it, and you believe, and you're certain, and your heart's in the right place, and you're coming from a consciousness of sharing, right? Of not just receiving for the self alone, but receiving for the sake of the greatness that will flow out to others, or the influence or impact it can have in a positive way. But like say, you make an honest mistake, or something goes off topsy-turvy. It's like, because that situation was filled with the Spirit to begin with, or like if you feel like the Holy Spirit or like your soul is like pulling you, like urging you to do something, and it's like divine like guidance to do it, it's like then that also has that spirit in it, right? That it's spirit led, so that the situation has grace around it. And even if it goes off topsy-turvy, or something falls through, or doesn't work out, or things get messed up, the situation can be changed around and remedied, and changed even for the better. If there is a situation that has no spirit in it whatsoever, and there is not even any certainty in it, maybe you have like you're wishy-washy, or you're shaky, or you're nervous about something, and then like a mistake happens, and then it's like a domino effect, and things start getting worse and worse and worse. That would be an example of something that, say, maybe you didn't have the certainty there, so you didn't have that strong foundation of that faith beyond reason, that emunah that sort of like can stabilize a situation. Those mustard seeds of faith that can move mountains, that's what we're talking about there. or say a situation just was never blessed from the start. It was kind of cursed. It was started through maybe something that was dishonest, like or maybe shady or something. Like, say if a relationship was started, but first it began as like a third party situation, or you know, like someone was being lied to or whatever. Like, usually there's some kind of chaos that comes into that relationship that has to be purified or processed or worked through, if not, like, if the relationship doesn't dissolve itself, right? Because it was started with negativity, right? It had bad blood in it from the beginning. You know that phrase, like, it's, you know, it's got bad blood or whatever? That's kind of like that. It's like, it's kind of cursed from the start because it wasn't made, it wasn't inherently good from the beginning. Okay, and so I also talked more about that subject, but if you would like to hear more about that, I would suggest going back and looking at the other video that's going to be titled Glass and Ceramic Vessels, and I'll just make this one like a part 2. But I do want to talk about Rosh Hashana and the notes from the lectures and things. So generally speaking, Rosh Hashana is, so the high holidays, the Hebrew high holidays happen in like this time of year. What did we just get out of, like September and October usually? And so it's a few weeks that span, and it starts at the beginning of the Lunar New Year, which is going to be the Libra new moon. And so basically on the Libra new moon is, legend has it, that's when mankind, or the soul of Adam, was created. The birth of all the souls of man, and Eve, and, you know, all of that. So the souls of all of mankind are represented by Adam. Adam is like a symbol that just represents all of us. And so every year on the new moon of Libra, which is the birthday of all of mankind, we get a fresh, brand new soul, right? We get to, like, basically take our soul to the dry cleaner, and it gets purified and cleaned out, and it is given back to us good as new. So then from that point, for 8 days, we are like this newborn baby with a soft spot in our head. And Rosh Hashana starts a period of this time of like 8 days where we have what is called direct and surrounding light from the Creator coming in. That is like, the veil is very thin. There's like an open portal of space and time that allows this particular quality of the light, which encompasses all the qualities of divine. It's not separated. It's not filtered. But it's so potent that any other time of year, if all of this were to come through, we would short circuit. It would cause chaos. It would be like all of this battery power like suddenly surging into us, and we would burn out because we wouldn't be able to know how to ground it or do anything with it. And so there's this grace period over this time of year where we can access this powerful and pure, like nuclear level spiritual light without causing a lot of chaos. However, if you do notice that this is a time of year where there is a Mercury retrograde happening, every year it happens like right around this time. And so there's several weeks of kind of like chaos leading up to Rosh Hashana. It's like testing the soul, reminding you, helping you reflect on all the things that you want to change about yourself and up level the parts of you that you're ready, like the ego layers that you're ready to like let go for healing or to be evolved through, with the thought in mind that you're about to get a new soul. And so you want to put aside those like old habits, those old patterns, because you want to keep your fresh soul as new and spick and span as you can, because that's like your energy field, right? And so it has an effect on what you're magnetizing and attracting, and what, you know, your vibration is like, and the kind of blessings you're going to be able to call in for the year is really the whole point. Was what we're doing here is that we are basically storing our blessing battery up so that we're planting these seeds now, and we're setting ourselves up for the blessings that can come for the rest of the year. So for these 8 days, there's all of these different levels of consciousness 8 of them in what is called Zeran Pin. It's a lot to explain with the tree of life, so we won't go into a lot of detail about that because it's too abstract. It doesn't really matter. But so each day kind of corresponds with these different levels of the soul, part of this section called Zeran Pin, that have these 8 governing forces. And so each day kind of corresponds with that, like catching the light in a concentrated way. But you might have also noticed that you might have been like challenged or, you know, things during that time too. And it's like, okay, just trying not to blow a fuse or like go off on anybody or, you know, do any bad evil tongue or evil eye to like put a big stain like on your brand new soul, right? So then we come to Yom Kippur. Now, and we blow the shofar several times, like 100 blows each time or something like that. I mean, we blow it like several times a day during Rosh Hashana and like a whole bunch of times. And it's basically like an energetic sound bath, spiritually powered sound bath that is like pushing the negativity out of you and like cracking the shells like an egg, like cracking the shells of negativity and blasting them out. Right? The Bible story about the falling of the walls of Jericho and the blowing of the trumpets, those were the walls of our negativity that walls up the soul, right? And that keeps us from connecting to like our deepest core within, that has that's completely healed and completely expanded and completely awakened and has the full consciousness and, you know, completely enlightened self. That is what the walls of Jericho were. So fast forward to 8 days to Yom Kippur. This is where we seal the deal. We seal everything in. We put the lid onto our soft spot. And we do that by fasting. And we deny our flesh the comforts and the stimulus of the flesh so that we can identify with the spirit and the soul 100% and lock it all in through the sacrifice of the feast, or the sacrifice of the fast. And then there is at the end of the final day, so it starts sundown the night before. You can't eat or anything or drink anything or like bathe or wear leather or perfumes or brush your teeth or anything like that until sundown the next day. And you're doing mitzvahs and prayers and all that stuff all day long. So that kind of seals the deal in. And then for the next 9 days, this is a period called Sukkot, which is sort of, sorry, I had a little belch, a little bit of spirit coming through here. Sorry, excuse me. So Sukkot is like the foundation is setting, right? And there are, it's still like this surrounding light that is still there to be absorbed and grounded and embodied, and little testing times are still happening. So it's like being very aware of trying to be in alignment with your higher self, trying not to go off on anybody, trying not to fall victim to your usual like behavioral patterns, thought patterns, emotional patterns. I wanted to go off on this one particular coworker of mine several times tonight. He knows he's an antagonist. He does it on purpose. But I was just like, nope, I am not smudging my soul. Not even for you, mister. I'm just gonna ignore you. By the end of the night, I'd won him back over anyway. But I made like 30% tips tonight. I mean, like that's good even for me. Usually I average, around 22, sometimes 23%. But tonight it was 30%. And it made up for that bad table like last week that like left me $30 on like almost like a $900 check. So it was like, oh wow, because I'd been practicing restriction, like I purified whatever negativity I needed to, and it was like the universe made up for that. And there was a glass vessel in that, because I knew that night it was like I was upset, but I knew somehow it would work out, and I tried not to get too upset. Even though I did, it wasn't like, even if you make the mistake, it's okay, right? How fast can you catch yourself Do you realize what's happening, and can you have a realization about that? And then can you be resilient and bounce back? And so I did. I was like, oh, I got really upset, but I try not to be too reactive. And then, I caught myself being upset, and I realized it, and I was self-realized in that moment. And then I tried to think about like why I was really so upset. Like, what was it really? Like, what was the core of it? It wasn't just that table, So it's like I kind of let myself get upset so that I could offload the subconscious and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. All right. Okay. So now I'm addressing the real issue here, and I can let this go, and then I can act accordingly. And then it all worked out. But I knew that with certainty, like the light could come in and correct it. And even though it took a week or so and it didn't seem related, it all got sorted out in the end, right? So that was a vessel that had spirit in it, and it was able to be repaired. Okay, so now that we are kind of getting a grasp on, generally speaking, what the layman's explanation from a mystic is for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. And there's also the shaking of the lulav on Sukkot, where you're like shaking this like, I can't remember what tree branch it is, but there's some lemons involved, and it has to do with shaking the negativity out of yourself, the very final, like, get it all out and seal the deal for the year. So it's very thorough. It's like going to medical school and then going and doing your residency and then being an intern, right? It's like you just keep on testing it out. Okay, so basic 101 high holidays complete. The themes for this year, ironically enough, were this major shift in paradigm, like in this huge new beginning, like not just the yearly new beginning, but like major new beginnings, major endings and fresh starts, and like next chapters of our life, just like we have been talking about all year, right? So, the motivation was to push yourself to really offload all of the crap that you don't want to bring with you anymore. Like, what life do you want for yourself? Who is the person that creates that life, that lives that life, right? How do you actually be in that life, right? So that was part of it. And part of it was, pushing yourself, not because you're a perfectionist and not because you have anything to prove to anyone. You don't need to be validated. You don't need to be fixed. You don't even need to be healed. But like, for the joy of it, for the more, to love more, to be more fulfilled, to be even more in touch with the experience of the awe and wonder of life. Like, even like, have you ever gone out and just looked at varieties of mushrooms? I mean, I get like really excited and fascinated just about that kind of thing. And when you like look up into space, like this huge, like it's enormous. Like, and we look up, we take for granted, we're just like, yeah, it's nice little dots tonight, the moon. But like really like think about like the universe and the expansiveness of it. Oh my God. So yeah, hold on. I've kind of like gone off the deep end and lost my train of thought. Oh, so yeah, so we're pushing ourselves to, expand into our potential, expand into the depths of fulfillment, right? And gratitude, and really, being present in life and experiencing it. And just pushing yourself for your own joy, right? For your own richness, for your own depth. Another thing was that we are servants of the light. We are channels of the light. And so without us in the physical world, nothing is being shared, right? We are the vessel that, like, we create the vessel. The vessels, the ceramics vessel or the glass vessel, like, we are the vessel. And the practice that we do is creating a vessel that's strong enough and large enough to receive the light and sustain and hold it, right? So that our cups can overflow. So we're creating the vessel, we're expanding the vessel, we're purifying the vessel during Rosh Hashanah. And during this big new start. But we are here to be channels for the light and to radiate that. And it's a privilege and a responsibility. And it's our whole purpose in this world, right? It's not, you know, our job or career is not so much our purpose. It's like, what kind of channels can we be for the light? How can we serve humanity and our fellow brother? How can we bring more goodness into the world? How can we bring more love into the world? How can we take care of each other better? How can we share? How can we alleviate suffering for others, right? And like share the burden and bring and lift others up with us, right? So that was part of it as well. And then there was another discussion which I was freaking out because this is exactly what we've been also touching on recently, which is when we're given difficulty and struggle and strife and challenge, even our own negativity, even our own weaknesses, even those parts of our personality that we consider flaws, you know, or deep flaws even, they're actually not curses, but they're blessings in that they're opportunities. Because it's like being given an assignment. Imagine, I love the show The Americans. The Americans is about this couple who are, they're Russian spies from, this is like the 80s. So it's when the KGB, they came over and posed as Americans, and they pretended to be Americans, right, as a married couple, but they were really like spies, and they really had to get married, and they're partners. And so they always have like all of these assignments they're having to do, and it's like this huge load that they have to carry, but these are their assignments, and this is their purpose, and this is like how they live their life, right? So our negativity or the challenges or our weaknesses, they're like our assignments. And what we're given is darkness. We're given raw, like, resources to transmute, because we, as co-creators and as expressions of divine, we are like expected to transmute the darkness of this world and make it light. This is the spiritual battle we're in. And so what we do is we take our anger, we take our sadness, we take our disappointment, and we turn it into something positive and good. Determination, stamina, compassion, understanding, empathy. Sometimes we even make physical things out of it, like art, or start a foundation that helps someone, or we decide to use it to make something nice. You know what I mean? Like, we use the shit and we take it and we make it fertilizer. That is our responsibility. And that is what gives us status in the spiritual world, right? It's not our big accomplishments or achievements. It's how much shit did you turn into fertilizer? How much darkness were you able to change in this life and turn it permanently into good? Because from a physics explanation, the law of conservation of matter states that matter or energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So everything that is in this reality is the stuff that's already here. It was that stuff that was in that primordial point, that singularity in the Big Bang, and then once it exploded, it expanded, but there's no more extra stuff, and we don't lose stuff. That's why you can't completely obliterate and annihilate something evil or an evil spirit, because it's like even that has a space in the world that it takes up. The only thing that we can do is heal and change and transmute these things and perform physical or spiritual alchemy. And what that does is it permanently takes something that would have been darkness, and it would have not only been passed down from you as the sin of the generation to generation, but also spread out to everyone that you come across in life. You influence people, you have an effect on people with all of that negativity. If you can change that forever, then you are forever, like, you're taking your inheritance, you're claiming sovereignty over your kingdom, and you are making sure that you are being a good steward of the garden, right? You are being a steward, you're being responsible. And so you have now changed this energy forever. You've brought goodness into the world that was darkness. So you have changed, you have healed a situation, right? So that is our responsibility, is to do that process. And so this is what it means when in spiritual texts, or like in the Bible or in Kabbalah, it talks about those who are the lowest are the highest. And I really got that on a deep level because, like, say, take for instance, my older brother, he's dead now. He died a couple of years ago, but he was 10 years older than me, and he had unfortunately been abused as a small child, molested. And so as a result of that, it affected him in such a way that he struggled really, really hard with addiction. And, you know, when you have trauma as a young child, you kind of, parts of you are sort of frozen at that stage of development. And so he never had access to, like, a therapist. And we didn't, like, pop psychology wasn't as available, you know, at that time either. So there wasn't really the resources that there are now for him. And he tried AA, but it just really it wasn't enough. It didn't really do it. So he struggled for his whole life with addictions. And it went from, you know, it started off addicted to crack. Actually, he was part of that pandemic of people in the 80s and 90s when the government released crack into the population for terrible reasons to subjugate certain demographics of people. My brother just happened to be, you know, very involved in the demographic that they were aiming at, and he ended up getting addicted to crack. And so eventually he was able to overcome that addiction, but it sort of ended up just transferring into other substances and other things. And so he went through a lot of struggles in his life, and it wasn't always easy because it, you know, causes uproar and drama and chaos, right? And so you try to be compassionate, but also at the same time, it's like you do get frustrated with the person who does struggle this way because they're acting out and they're rebellious and they're destructive and they're disruptive and chaotic, and it causes a lot of trauma within the family and a lot of tension. And so, you know, it's difficult, but like now I'm realizing this, it's like he had all that difficulty on his plate, all of that huge, heavy assignment. And like Elizabeth and Philip, it was like they were the best spies, so they would get all the hardest assignments, right? They would get everything. Like they would have so much on their plate, right? That you wonder, like, were there any other agents around? Like, they're giving every single assignment to them. And I thought about my brother. It's like he was given all these assignments, right? He was given so much work to do. He was given so much pressure to carry. And, you know, he had such a sweetheart. He would always try to mend animals and help injured little lost animals and stuff. His kids, even though they probably saw very traumatizing things growing up, they've all grown up very well adjusted because they knew they were loved. So, like, his heart was full of love. You know, he had his problems, but he did his work in transmuting a lot, right? Even though he didn't fully overcome those addictions in his lifetime. But that's part of, like, that demonstration of those who are considered the lowest are actually the highest, because he had the biggest burden, the biggest assignment, right? He must have been the biggest badass because he was entrusted with this darkness. We are assigned this amount of shit to turn into fertilizer in our lifetime. We're entrusted with that. It's a responsibility. are we doing anything with this, or are we just leaving it, you know? So it's like he was entrusted with all of that, which means like he had more of a challenge than someone who was just born into a nice situation, who always, you know, made the good grades and got along and, you know, was like squeaky clean and on all the like the debate team. Like, it's like, even though that person, no offense, they didn't do anything wrong, but like, even though, you know, they get exalted, like, oh yeah, they're the good ones, it's like in the upper realms, they didn't really have to they didn't have to overcome as much difficulty, right? They didn't have to overcome themselves as much. So they revealed some light, but not nearly as much as someone reveals when they're in a deep struggle and in deep darkness. So I hope that you see that as knowing that whatever weakness you've been given, or that you have, whatever difficulty, whatever challenge, just know that it can actually serve to exalt you. And as you transmute that and heal you, you are revealing so much light, not only in this world, and you're making a difference, even though it doesn't seem like it, because it only seems like it's affecting you, it does affect the whole world, right? You're raising the vibration of the planet by fixing what's just around your energy field, right? And you're preventing that from being passed down to generation to generation and being spread out, right? To everyone that crosses your path. It's like, it's a big deal. So never feel bad about yourself if you've been through struggles, or if you don't have a squeaky clean background or whatever. It doesn't make you less than. In fact, it makes you even more exalted in the spiritual world, or it can, because you have been given more challenge. So I think that's where we're going to wrap this up. The ceramics, the vessels, the glass vessels have spirit in them. So even when they're broken, they can be repaired. They can be redone. Okay, you guys? So much love to you. I'm finally going to get off here and take a hot shower and like wash all the restaurant off and have some nice dinner. But I will see y'all later. Ciao.